Oh, an accident, right? You tripped, fell on another man's sausage. Oops, how did I land there? Mm.
My ex wife accidentally slept with a guy on girls' night out. Here's my story. Hey, True, I've been a long-time listener of your channel, and after watching countless stories from men around the world, I finally felt like it was time to share mine. Not for sympathy, not for pity, but for clarity, healing, and maybe even to help one of the younger guys out there recognize the signs I ignored. My name's Eric. I'm 34 years old, live in Arizona, and up until 2 years ago, I thought I had it all. A beautiful wife, a solid marriage, a stable career, and the kind of love story people usually envy. But as you probably know better than most, not everything that shines is gold, and sometimes what you thought was love was just well disguised betrayal, waiting for the right night out with the girls to show its true face. Let me start from the beginning. How we met. I met my ex wife, let's call her Rachel, when we were both in college. We were 22. I was majoring in electrical engineering and she was studying psychology. We met through mutual friends at a campus bonfire. It wasn't love at first sight, not really. She actually thought I was too quiet. I thought she talked too much. Funny how that works, but there was something about her, something magnetic. It didn't take long for us to start hanging out more, texting daily, studying together. I'd be lying if I said it was all sunshine. The early days were rocky. She had this wild streak, and I was a bit more of the steady Eddie type. I wanted a plan. She wanted spontaneity. We'd argue about things that now seem trivial: weekend plans, jealousy, money. But every time we hit a wall, we somehow found our way back. It felt like we were learning how to build something real. We dated for 4 years before I proposed. She said yes through tears and laughter, and for a while, I believed I had found my partner for life. Early marriage and the struggles that bonded us. The first 2 years of marriage were, in a word, beautiful. We got a dog, bought a small starter home, and had this rhythm together. I worked long hours at my job while she started building her career as a child therapist. We were each other's cheerleaders. But life hit us hard when we tried to start a family. We had 2 miscarriages in a span of 18 months. If you've never experienced that level of pain and helplessness with someone, it either pulls you closer or rips you apart. For us, it seemed like it brought us closer. We leaned on each other, cried in each other's arms, stayed up late talking about the what ifs. Looking back now, I think that's where the cracks began. Not because of the miscarriages themselves, but because of how differently we handled grief. I internalized it and focused on trying to create stability. She, on the other hand, started to spiral in subtle ways, needing more validation, more time with friends, more space. The shift I didn't want to see. Around our fourth wedding anniversary, Rachel started changing. I don't mean in the natural way that people grow. I mean personality changes, attitude shifts, demands that seemed unreasonable. Suddenly, I wasn't emotionally available enough. Suddenly, I didn't get her or never listened. Mind you, I made every effort to be there. I cut down work hours. I planned little date nights. I went to therapy with her. I wanted us to win, but I also started noticing little things. Her phone was always glued to her hand. She'd get cagey when I asked about certain friends I hadn't heard about before. And then there was the tone. She started speaking to me like I was a burden, not a husband. One night she told me she needed to take a break, not from the marriage, but from everything. She said she needed a night out with her friends to let loose, get out of her head, feel normal again. I understood. She'd been through a lot. We both had. So I said, sure, go out, have fun. Just be safe and come home by midnight. Famous last words. The night that changed everything. The girls' night out was on a Friday. She left the house around 6 p.m. looking amazing. Tight jeans, heels, makeup flawless. I didn't think anything of it. She was going out with her best friend, Kelly, and a couple other girls. Around 11:30 p.m., I sent her a text. Hey, you heading home soon? No response. At 12:15 a.m., I called her. No answer. By 1:30 a.m., I was pacing the house. Called again. No answer. At 3 a.m., I started convincing myself something had happened. Maybe she was in trouble. Maybe her phone died. Maybe. At 6 a.m., the front door opened. She walked in looking like someone who'd been hit by a truck. Makeup smeared, hair messy, clothes slightly wrinkled. I was on the couch waiting, eyes red from being awake all night. She froze when she saw me. Eric, she said quietly, I didn't expect you to be up. No asterisk T, I replied. Where the hell were you? She sat down, put her face in her hands, and started crying. That's when I knew. I messed up, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't speak. She said it happened at the bar. A guy was buying drinks for the group. They were dancing. He flirted. She flirted back. According to her, they kissed, and next thing she knew, she was at his place. She said, I don't know how it happened. I was drunk. I didn't plan it. I just fell into it. I asked her straight up, You expect me to believe you just slipped and fell on some guy's dick? She looked away. That was the answer. Confirmation and divorce. The next day, I called Kelly, her best friend. I needed the truth, and I didn't care about protecting anyone's feelings anymore. Kelly, to her credit, didn't lie. She said she tried to stop Rachel from going home with the guy, but Rachel was belligerent. She said Rachel had been flirting way too hard all night and that it wasn't an accident. That was it for me. I called a lawyer that Monday. Within a week, I had filed for divorce. Rachel cried, begged, pleaded. She even tried blaming me. If you had been more affectionate, if we hadn't lost the babies, maybe I wouldn't feel so broken. If you had just trusted me. Nope, I was done. It was a clean break. No kids, no joint business, nothing to keep us tied. I gave her a fair split of our assets and walked away. Emotionally, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was necessary because what I realized in those weeks after the betrayal was that I had ignored signs for years. And that moment, that drunken accident, that was just the final crack in a dam that had been leaking for far too long. The early cheating I never knew about. Here's the wild part. A few months after the divorce was finalized, one of Rachel's old college friends hit me up randomly. We hadn't spoken in years. She told me, Eric, you're a good guy, and I think you should know. Rachel cheated on you early in the marriage. I was floored. Apparently, during a girl's trip to Vegas in our first year of marriage, she had hooked up with a bartender. It was a one-night thing, but it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a drunken mistake. It was deliberate. I confronted Rachel about it out of curiosity, not to argue, just to know. She didn't deny it. Just started crying and saying, I was scared. I thought you'd leave me if you knew. The thing is, I probably wouldn't have left back then. I was so deep in love, I would have tried to work it out. But in hindsight, I'm grateful she kept it from me because it made walking away that much easier after her second betrayal. Her path and mine. Even after the divorce, Rachel tried to get back together. She'd text randomly, send long emails, even drop off gifts. One time, she showed up at my job just to talk. Another time, she sent me a scrapbook of our wedding with a note that said, Remember who we were? Yeah, I remember. I remember the vows you broke, the nights I stayed up worried, the way you shifted blame when all I ever did was try to love you. I didn't respond to any of her efforts. I blocked her eventually. I needed peace, and she didn't deserve access to me anymore. These days, I'm doing a lot better. I've been in therapy, hitting the gym, focusing on my career. I'm not dating right now, not because I'm bitter, but because I've realized how important it is to truly know someone before giving them your life. Love isn't enough. Loyalty matters, respect matters, character matters. To the young guys listening, if I can leave the younger men listening with any advice, it's this: pay attention to the subtle shifts. When someone changes, they'll try to gaslight you into thinking you changed. Stay grounded. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore red flags during dating. They won't disappear after marriage. They grow. Protect your peace. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I never thought I'd be divorced by 34. I never thought the woman I held through 2 miscarriages would turn around and sleep with a stranger. But here I am, alive, wiser, and finally free. Thanks for reading my story. Keep doing what you're doing. You're giving men a space to speak when the world tells them to stay silent. Subject: before my first email is even read, my ex already tried something weird. Hey, True. Before you even get a chance to read my first email on the channel, I felt like I had to send in a part 2. Not because I planned to. Honestly, I thought I was done. But something strange happened, and it felt too bizarre, too ironic, and frankly too on brand for my ex-wife not to document it. Plus, there's another life update that caught me completely off guard. I want to share it because it came at a time that could have gone very differently if I were still married. It gave me peace. It gave me confirmation. But more than that, it gave me perspective. Let me break it down from the beginning. She came back again, but this time she got weird. So in my last email, I told you how my ex-wife Rachel cheated on me during a girls' night out. Confessed, and how I later found out she had also cheated earlier in the marriage. I told you how I divorced her, blocked her, and started rebuilding my life. Well, about a week after I finished writing that email to you, she showed up at my gym. Yep, the one place that's supposed to be my peace. I was finishing up a workout, headphones on, drenched in sweat, when I noticed someone pacing near the water fountain. I barely recognized her at first. Her hair was dyed darker. She looked a little more tired in the face, and she had this look like she was debating whether to say something or not. When I made eye contact, she gave this half smile and walked over. I took out my earbuds. "Rachel, hey," she said, in that soft, guilt-ridden tone she uses when she wants something. I didn't say anything back, just waited. "I'm sorry to just show up like this. I didn't know how else to talk to you. You blocked me on everything." "And there's a reason for that," I said. She gave a little nod. "I get it. I wanted to apologize again and maybe ask something kind of crazy." At this point, I thought she was going to ask me to co-sign a loan or something, but it was worse. "I wanted to know if you'd be open to sleeping together, just one time." I blinked. Then I laughed, like full out laughed in her face. "You're joking, right?" "I'm serious," she said. "You were the only person who ever made me feel safe. And I miss you. I've been lonely, and I've been thinking about us a lot lately, about how I messed up. I don't want to ruin your peace. I just thought maybe if you ever felt like it." I cut her off. "Rachel, you didn't just mess up. You demolished a marriage. You cheated twice, lied, manipulated. And now, because you're lonely, you think I'm going to risk all my healing for a quick run through? No. This isn't some rom-com where the guy says yes and we fade to black. I'm not that guy anymore." She started crying, the kind of tears that are more about rejection than remorse. "I still love you," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, you loved what I gave you, not me." Then I walked away. It felt surreal, like something out of a movie where the ex tries to slide back into your life because the world out there isn't as kind as she expected. I guess when you burn the man who would have given you everything, the darkness you're left with gets real cold, but it gets weirder. Her best friend told me what's really going on. So remember her best friend Kelly? The one who confirmed Rachel cheated during girls' night? Well, we hadn't spoken since the divorce, but a few days after the gym incident, Kelly messaged me on Instagram with something I wasn't ready for. Hey, Eric, I heard she showed up at your gym. I just want you to know she's spiraling. She's been talking about you a lot, almost obsessively, and not in a romantic way. Like she thinks if she can get with you one more time, she'll feel better about herself. She went on to say that Rachel had been struggling financially, emotionally, even socially. A lot of her friends distanced themselves. The guy she cheated with ghosted her a week later, and now she was just floating, working a dead end job, living alone, and apparently going through a phase of trying to reconnect with anyone from her past who ever loved her. She said if you ever slept with her again, it would restore her confidence. That phrase made me sick to my stomach. Restore her confidence? I'm not a freaking energy drink. This was no longer about closure or even regret. This was about ego, about trying to reclaim a part of herself by reusing the people she discarded. That's when it hit me. I wasn't a person to her. I was a utility, something to charge her self esteem with. And she thought sex could fix that. That message from Kelly was the last nudge I needed. I changed gyms the next day. The inheritance I never expected. Now for the curveball. About a month after all this happened, I got a letter in the mail from a law office in Flagstaff. At first I thought it was junk mail or maybe something work related, but as I opened it, I saw the name, Margaret Collins, my grandmother. Let me give some context here. My grandmother and I were never super close, not because we didn't love each other, but because she lived far away and wasn't the most expressive woman. My dad's side of the family is a little more formal, old school, you know? I hadn't seen her in maybe 3 years, but we sent cards on holidays, talked occasionally on the phone, and I visited a few times when I was younger. Well, the letter said that she had passed away, and that she had left me something in her will. I was stunned. I had no idea she would have even thought to include me. My older cousins were always the favorites. I was the quiet one who kept to himself. A week later, I sat in a small office across from her estate lawyer. After the formalities, he handed me an envelope. Inside was a personal letter she'd written months before passing, along with the cashier's check. The amount? $127,000. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened the letter. Here's part of what she wrote. Eric, I know we didn't talk much over the years, but I've always admired you. You reminded me of my late husband. Quiet, gentle, loyal. I don't know much about your marriage, but I hope this helps you build something new someday. Something better. Something you deserve. Don't let the world turn you bitter. Stay kind, but stay smart. Love, Grandma Mags. I cried right there in that office, not because of the money, but because someone saw me, quietly, silently, from the background. And most of all, I was grateful I was divorced when I got it. Because let me be real with you, if Rachel and I had still been together, that money would have been ours, not mine. She'd already be planning a trip, or a car, or paying off her credit cards. And part of me truly believes she would have used me for every last dollar. Instead, I sat alone in my house, peaceful, free, and fully aware of what I'd escaped. That inheritance changed my life. Not because I suddenly became rich, but because it showed me that life rewards clarity. I let go of toxicity, and the universe answered. What I did with the money. Some people ask me if I went and bought a car, or traveled, or balled out. Nah, here's what I did. I paid off my mortgage. Clean slate, no more monthly payments. That alone lifted 1,000 bricks off my chest. I put $20K in a trust for my niece. She's only 8, but I want her to have a head start when she's older. I started a savings account for a future business. I've always wanted to start my own electrical design firm. Now I can. I donated a small chunk to a local shelter, the same one that helped my cousin when he was homeless. Gotta pay it forward. But most importantly, I gave myself time. time to breathe, time to exist without pressure. I took 2 months off work, hiked every weekend, read books, learned to cook more than just steak and pasta. I started healing in ways I didn't know I needed. Would I ever take her back? People have asked, friends, coworkers, even my own mom. Bless her heart, she's too forgiving. The answer is hell no. Not because I'm still angry, I'm not, but because I now understand something I didn't before. You don't have to hate someone to know they don't belong in your life. Rachel made her choices, and I made mine. We could have built something beautiful, but she let the world, her impulses, and her ego burn it down. I gave her my heart. She treated it like an option. Now, I'm not an option. I'm the prize. And I don't say that out of arrogance. I say that because I've earned it. The pain, the betrayal, the silence, the solitude, the rebuilding, the boundaries. That's what makes a man valuable. And I value myself too much to ever step back into that chaos. Final thoughts. So, before you even read part 1 on your channel, I figured I'd send this update in because this chapter just found me. Life has a weird way of showing you what's on the other side of heartbreak. Sometimes it's healing, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's just peace, but it's always better than staying stuck in dysfunction. To any guy listening, if you're thinking about staying with someone who disrespected, you don't. If you're worried you won't find happiness after divorce, you will. And if you ever get a random message from your ex asking to hook up for closure, run. I'm excited about my future now. And you know what? I thank God she cheated. Because if she hadn't, I might still be stuck trying to fix something that was never mine to repair. Thanks for reading this, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Your channel matters more than you know. Until next time,